This is Sanika. She spends her days avoiding reading the news and shutting out all the depressing events that plague our world. Why? 2 reasons. First, to maintain her sanity, and second, because she's a dumb fuck. What? I'm not a person. I don't have to be positive about mental health. This is Sanika. She's about to be forced to talk about the news any second now. How do I know? Because the bit is about to end. Goodbye.
Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the media industry. The Indian media industries are some of the largest industries in the world. With over 400 news channels and more than 100 million newspapers being sold every single day, one would assume that we're spoiled for choice. When in reality, the Indian media is becoming increasingly extreme in their methods and increasingly absurd in their stories. Now let's just address the elephant in the room. No, not the elephant Bollywood celebrities were obsessed with a couple of months ago. In fact, this elephant is quite the opposite, because it is obsessed with Bollywood celebrities. The one case that perfectly sums up all of the inherent flaws in the Indian media. India's national pastime and the one docuseries Netflix is yet to sell subscriptions of. The investigation into the death of Sushant Singh Rajput. Now, before we get into any specifics, I'd just like to state that I'm not trying to determine whether he was killed or he died of suicide. Although AIIMS and a scientist working with the Central Forensic Science Laboratory have concluded that he died of suicide, but anyway, the BJP didn't care about this, as they continued milking away his death to make the entire nation gossip and spill the tea right before the Bihar elections. Let me just say, I was unsure before, but now they definitely have my vote. Look, we don't want to get into the specifics of this case. Instead, we want to scrutinize the media's coverage of this case. Because when the media decides to publicly take sides, portray one specific person as guilty, and run absurd conspiracy theories, you begin to feel like there's a nationwide media trial that's taking place. I mean, just look at the treatment of Rhea Chakraborty, Sushant Singh Rajput's girlfriend. Wait, do we call her ex-girlfriend now? Rhea has been called everything from a soul-frying witch to a foul-lying bitch just because she's been accused to have something to do with the alleged abetment of suicide. I hope you like the little wordplay we did there. Our writers went the distance on it. When Rhea was first called in for questioning, she was attacked by the media the way a lynch mob would. And people still didn't see anything wrong with this. And let me just clear it up. Rhea Chakraborty was in jail for over a month, not for killing Sushant Singh Rajput, but for taking drugs. So this wasn't the victory of justice, it was the failure of our law enforcement. Because let's be real, if taking drugs was illegal, all of Punjab would be in jail. And the BJP can't put an entire state in jail, can they? Never mind. But do I really need to explain why all of India, sitting in front of their screens, deciding whether a person is guilty or not, whether it be for taking drugs or for killing a man, is not only morally incorrect, but also legally invalid? And let me just clarify to the people who think that bringing up the patriarchy is a distraction technique from Ria's involvement. Do you guys remember the time when Salman Khan, a man who has literally committed crimes ranging from homicide to domestic abuse, or Sanjay Dutt, who has literally been found aiding Pakistani terrorists, were surrounded by the media, yelling at them, calling them names, questioning them? No? Yeah, that's exactly the point being made here. Yes, some men were questioned in relation to Sushant's death. But the fact that none of them were harassed by the media is literally the point here. Every facet of this story has been twisted, blown up, and sold to us by the media. They've had Sushant Singh Rajput star in more fictional stories than he worked in when he was alive. And they did it in a way that made us feel like we cared about it. They didn't care when Jia Khan committed suicide and named Suraj Pancholi as the primary reason behind it. In fact, they called her a slut too. how India's Muslim minorities are taking over its institutions? What the heck? And it's not even an op-ed. Dude, at least try to hide your bigotry. Actually, this brings us to the next glaring issue of the Indian media: the representation of religious minorities, particularly Muslims. When the BJP won the elections in 2014, their main yet unspoken agenda was making India a Hindu Rashtra. This pro-Hindu image came with complementary Islamophobia. And our media, being the lapdog spokesperson of the government, as always, instantly followed up on this narrative.
There is a section in our country which wants to plague India with the same old narrative about Muslims being in great danger. There is a section who is actively creating a sense of paranoia among Muslims to carve out a vote bank.
Islamophobia in the media refers to covering Muslims or Islam-related topics in a negative light. If we were to take its official definition, Islamophobia refers to the intense dislike or fear of Islam, especially as a political force, hostility, or prejudice towards Muslims. Our media really seems to have mistaken this less as a journalistic bias to avoid and more so as a sport.
I'll tell you why. I can't shout over you. I'll tell you why.
Well, that's in the
I'll
air.
tell you why. I'll tell you why, Mr. Pathan. Don't be an anti-national. Don't be
Oh,
an
and he's dropped it.
anti-national.
Well,
Don't be an
there you go.
anti-national.
You can hear the jeers of the crowd. I just heard someone behind me yell, "Shit, cunt." Pretty appropriate. That should have been held.
What ensued after this was the constant maligning of Muslims and Islam. The media never ever gave up a chance to point out the Muslim angle in cases. Muslims were blamed for everything in this country, from overpopulation to writing the IS exam.
लेकिन अगर नस्लों का फायदा करना चाहते हो तो सिर्फ ब्यूरोक्रेसी पे कब्जा करो, पावर अपने हाथ में लो।
ये लोग जो कह रहे हैं, ये जीना ने कभी कहा था कि आपको ब्यूरोक्रेसी में घुसना चाहिए, तभी इस देश का विभाजन संभव है। ये बात करने वाले लोग इस देश के 150 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों के सबसे बड़े दुश्मन हैं, और जो हिंदुस्तान का दुश्मन है उसका मैं दुश्मन हूं।
I'm not gonna lie, that intro was kind of fire. What's my editing team doing, guys? Up your game. See, this fervor of nationalism reached its peak during the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Yes, the BJP mentioned in its manifesto that it was going to build the Ram Mandir, but did any of the media anchors mention this in their disclaimer? No. Because all they could do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week was yell, Ram Lalla hum aayenge, mandir wahi banayenge. After a while, it was hard to differentiate between a BJP spokesperson and a news anchor. I mean, after a while, I bet even Ram Lalla was like, "Rehne do yaar, main kahin aur settle ho jata hu." Listen, I understand what they're going for. I get it. I get that appealing to authorities sells stories well. But out of all of the media channels, only one seemed to know that sometimes the only authority that matters isn't mortal at all.
Sushant, can you tell me what happened the night of your death?
Oh shit, sorry, wrong clip. Not that kind of non-mortal. The other kind.
संविधान जी, मैं शिव यहाँ पे बैठे सभी लोगों से यह कहना चाहता हूँ कि वह मेरी बात को बड़े ही ध्यानपूर्वक सुने। श्री रामचंद्र जी शिव जी को अपना आदर्श मानते हैं और श्री राहुल गांधी शिव जी को अपना आदर्श मानते हैं और कहते हैं कि वह शिव भक्त हैं। तो यहाँ पर उपस्थित कांग्रेस के नेता, मैं उनसे जानना चाहता हूँ कि क्या कारण है कि वह श्री रामचंद्र जी के मंदिर के लिए जो सुनवाई चल रही है उसको रोकना चाहते हैं। एक तरफ तो वह खुद को शिव भक्त बताते हैं और दूसरी तरफ श्री रामचंद्र जी के मंदिर ना बनने का कारण बन रहे हैं।
But it didn't stop at the media celebrating the demolition of a mosque. they had to further malign Muslims. And what better time to do that than a global pandemic? Do you remember the Tablighi Jamaat? Of course you do. Arnab Goswami came back to these words every night. The Bombay High Court condemned the way the media accused one entire religion for a global pandemic, calling it unjust and unfair. But what does the media care? They continued to recklessly report the coronavirus cases in India, which led to many Muslims all over the nation being accused of carrying the virus. However, what can't be ignored is that just a couple of months after this, when the virus situation was at its peak in India, the Prime Minister of India and a couple of his fellow BJP ministers visited Ayodhya for laying the foundations of this mandir. The Ram Mandir Trust head, who was present at the event, was later found positive. However, no one spoke about this. Modi's supporters weren't too behind themselves. This is them celebrating when there were thousands of corona cases all over India. All of this leads to only one conclusion. Most of our media anchors are Hindu men that take pride in their Islamophobia. Our debates on TV are populated by straight men that are inseparable from their sexuality. And as we're recording this, we're once again reminded of the fact that our media is blind to anyone outside their upper caste right-wing circles. The emergency of 1975 is often considered the darkest hour of the Indian democracy. And it hit the media hard. Newspaper printing presses were raided for 2 days, and eventually many of them went out of circulation. Journalists and reporters that spoke against the government were immediately arrested. Media outlets that were considered friendly to the government were given aids in the form of governmental ads, and those deemed unfriendly were blacklisted. Many of them even run aground. Does that sound familiar to you? To me, it sounds less like a description of something that happened 40 years ago and more like a documentation of the current state of media. Maybe you don't consume your news from the outlets that we've mentioned in this episode, but a majority of the public does, and that, above all, is the issue here. Yes, the public mentality is broken, but the media plays a major role in keeping it that way. Because they chose to tell us that, we have to expose Deepika Padukone for taking drugs, when the UP government and police were literally hiding the rape of a 19-year-old woman. Because they chose to tell us that Congress was politicizing rape, when that is exactly what they did when they were in the opposition. They told us to hate a particular party, a particular religion, and a caste, and most of us did so. Not all of us, though. History repeats itself, maybe, but a combination of tech innovation and self-obsession has given us one tool that those in 75 didn't have: social media and the internet. You have the ability to fact-check anything you come across. And now I know that's a far cry from ethical journalism, but the internet gives a voice to many independent news outlets that are unburdened by the pressure of press and TV rules. As of social media, I know it can seem redundant and useless and not enough to tweet with hashtags and put up stories, but it works. So we have to keep going. In just a matter of a couple of days, hashtag Dalit Lives Matter went from being something that was being discussed on Twitter to being on national TV to being a talking point for the UP government. And I know it wasn't a smooth journey there. Minors were doxxed, allegations were thrown at the movement, and now the BJP thinks it's an international conspiracy, but yet it's a victory. Look, we've tried to be angry at the media, we've tried to educate them, we've even tried to ignore them. But one attempt at annoying them by raiding Modi's comment section has convinced them that the Gen Z is coming for them. If we can't be a powerful opposition just yet, we have to be an undeniable thorn in their side. Social media activism works, you just have to commit to it. Weaponize the one tool that sets us apart from generations of revolutionaries in the past. Don't waste it. As the citizens of the largest democracy, it's about time that we're seen. Today, they see us. Tomorrow, they'll fear us. And the day after that, The day after that, they'll start running. Keep chasing. That's a show. Thanks for watching.